Welcome the Minister to the House, and I've listened with interest to a fairly wide-ranging debate, very interesting indeed debate. I want us to focus on the human element of this, which is the standard of living and working conditions endured by the members of our defence forces. And Ireland has never been a militaristic nation. We've been too small for that. It has not been part of our culture. In fact, we spent most of our lives struggling against imperial armies of our nearest neighbours. Nonetheless, we are entitled to have a solid core, defence corps available to the nation in a time of crisis. Thankfully, we have been spared some of the terrible atrocities that we witnessed in recent decades, caused by, I suppose, the religious crises that are going on all over the world, especially from the Middle East out. But one of these days, perhaps we might not be so lucky, and the first people that will be shouting for to go in and defend our interests will be the Gardaí and the Army, as they have done before. And many members of both organisations have given their lives in the service of this country. So there is a great regard for them, Minister, as I'm sure you will be aware. They may not be numerically strong. They don't have the voting power of some of the bigger organised groups such as teachers or nurses or Gardaí indeed, and perhaps their power tends to be strengthened in areas where the garrisons are located, like the Curragh Camp or maybe Athlone and places like that. But they are popular around the country. And the sad tales that people heard on the notorious Joe Duffy show and other such programmes about the way in which married men with families were trying to scrape a living, a basic living, you know, and still at the same time render pride and service to their uniform. And we all witnessed with great pride the ceremonial value of the Army alone in 2016 and again in 2019, and we see how they enhance all the functions that they perform for on Uachtaráin, in Áras an Uachtaráin. They add great quality and prestige to those occasions. We've seen the way in which they've gone into our schools and liaised with young people and talked to them about our history and our flag and all the rest of it. So there is a great respect, a very deep-seated respect for the Army throughout the length and breadth of this country. So, Minister, people are fed up with them being pushed around, and whereas you have made a start, and you've been in the wars lately, and I'm not going to add to your trials and tribulations, you've had enough of them, that's a new way label, that's what you're there for. But, you know, from now on, this has to be seen as a start, not a great start, but a start, and it'll be up to you, Minister, and future governments down the line to deliver on what is promised in this. I'll just, without repeating what has been said, the publication of the Commission report is not in itself going to stop the hemorrhage out of our forces, which we witnessed in recent years. Record numbers are continuing to leave. Somebody, was it Senator Cockwell, worked it out at 96 cents per day is what the increase will mean to some members. And I mean, is that going to stop people leaving the Army when so many have indicated clearly to the Commission alone? The Commission, I think, found that 60% of enlisted personnel and non-commissioned officers have indicated that they intend to leave in the coming 2 years. The measures have cost 10 million, which is barely a third of the 29 million underspend in the department pay budget in 2018. There is no doubt from the report that the Commission itself knows that its recommendations are barely the beginning of what is needed. And I repeat what I said at the outset, Minister, it's a start, but it's only a start. And it's from now on, I think, that people are going to be expecting the serious business. The Commission, as has been said, was hamstrung by its very terms from the very beginning. The numbers serving have fallen below 9,000. Morale is on the floor. paying conditions are one issue, but members feel abandoned on a whole other range of issues as well. We witnessed the embarrassment of messed up arrangements for repatriating troops from abroad, causing great upset to themselves and to their distraught families. The decline has left the force with just 8,847 personnel at the end of March, which is 653 below the current agreed strength. The Chief of Staff, Vice Admiral Mellis, stated you're always going to have a churn, and that's healthy enough, but I'd rather it be around 5% than the 8.1% it is at present. I think the UK government declared it a crisis when their levels were at 5%. That should be a wake-up call. It's clear to my party that what's needed is for the permanent and independent defence forces to have a pay body to be established which would reflect the unique nature of military service in the broader context of pay and allowances. The Taoiseach has been in denial, citing recruitment campaigns when challenged at leaders' questions, but the Commission itself makes it clear that current recruitment processes have to be reviewed, as the continued acceleration in recruitment activity in the absence of equivalent retention is simply kicking the can down the road. Now, I'm fortunate here and proud to be one of the senators who receives his nomination to contest the Seanad by ICPSA, which body represents, among others, RACO and PD Fora. And in my involvement with those individuals, I have to say I have yet to meet a finer, more upstanding body of people, men and women. And I think those two bodies, if they had an input and were granted an input into the report, I think they're certainly underwhelmed by what has come out of it. And as you know yourself, there are legal proceedings at the moment. But nonetheless, I do hope that, as your promise, Minister, the increases will come in to effect virtually immediately. The outlays associated with developing the range of military skills can amount to 1.4 million for an ordnance bomb disposal officer at captain rank, or 1.72 million for a captain in the Air Corps. The cost of training one officer cadet is estimated at more than 100,000 per student. Recruitment is costly and is even more costly when it comes with no retention policy to back it up at the other end. But retention isn't only about remuneration. There are fundamental organisational structural issues within the forces, and the most fundamental retention issue is the Working Time Directive, which many members have referred to, whose protection has been denied to members of the Defence Forces. I'll be concluding shortly, some of the statements lately made by the Taoiseach and you, Minister, whereas I'm not saying you weren't singing out of the one hymn sheet, you certainly weren't singing on the one key, and there was some confusion, which Senator Cockrell has referred to, and I don't have the privilege of being privy to the additional documentation you presented to the House. I look forward with interest to seeing that. I'll conclude by saying that the Defence Forces has been an easy target for cost-cutting. Its unreserved loyalty and professionalism has been taken advantage of. Defence policy has to become more of a matter of fitting the Defence Forces merely into a budget envelope. Good morning.